Activate your energy.
Welcome to the Activated Authors Podcast, a show where we distill the core principles of what it takes to become a happy, healthy, and productive author, no matter what stage of the journey you're at. I'm your host, Daniel Willcocks. I'm an international best-selling author, as well as an author coach, speaker, and creative entrepreneur. But most importantly, I'm a lifelong student of all things productivity, psychology, and human behaviour. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. Without further ado, let's dive in. What is up, Activators? And welcome back to another episode of the Activated Authors Podcast with myself, Daniel Willcocks, and here with me every single week is...
It's Sam Frost Squirtle. Sam Squirtle Frost.
I mean, that's
literally
big.
Don't want that floating around on the internet.
Nope, that's a whole different show. That mug.
Oh my God, I've been hanging around my son too much.
That mug, that makes it even worse. That mug is as large as your face.
It is.
It really, like, even the positioning of the eyes and the mouth and everything, you didn't realize how much you looked like Squirtle.
Mm-hmm.
Join us on YouTube to appreciate that face.
Yeah. This is a beautiful gift from our mutual friend Robin.
The Robin Howley.
Mm-hmm.
How wonderful.
Your Charmander's downstairs.
Wonderful.
I wouldn't dare.
There was no Bulbasaur. Not
No.
that I would have picked it, but there was no Bulbasaur. Like,
Yeah.
nothing needs to be done about it now. The moment has
It
passed.
is weird. It is weird. Like, why only two? Like, and if only two, why two of the first three starters?
Well, okay, slight drop of geekdom knowledge there. If it's going to be any two, it should be Bulbasaur and Charmander, because green and red were the original releases, and blue actually wasn't a release in Japan. So,
oh well, there you go. So they fucked it twice.
They fucked it twice. When it came to America, it became red and blue, and then it popularized out.
And then all everyone wanted was Pikachu.
Yeah. We're in 2024, Sam, and we're back.
Thank
Nope,
the
don't
gods.
do it.
Thank the gods, all of them that have ever existed, that will ever exist, and that currently exist. Thank you, or as me and Rhiannon like to say, that's my sister, praise Alan. Good God.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Alan. But yeah, we're in 2024. We're back. We've been off air for, I was looking it up, almost 2 months.
Yeah, that seems right.
Yeah, not the longest break I've had, but by all means, still quite a significant break. So we have missed you guys a lot.
Yeah.
You're listening to this. That means that you've either subscribed or you've refound us and all that kind of stuff. So thank you for coming back. We really, really appreciate it. But yeah, it's been a journey, and like I feel like we could dedicate an entire episode to everything. I don't know how much you want to go into stuff, but do you want to cover like a little pieces here of
sure, we could create a new segment
23.
Just talking over each other. We can create a new segment called What's the Tea? So I mean, I'm drinking coffee, but so if you have been like listening to this podcast for a while, you'll know that I have had a lot of health problems recently. Started back, I mean, just for my life, but this general this kind of arc started late March, kind of April time, and essentially I had a pain in my right iliac crest area, which is pelvis.
My favorite of the iliacs.
Yeah, left can suck it, but left does come into play later because I didn't want to leave them out. Lots of different investigations, all centered around my vagina, because when you've got one, the doctors really want to make sure that's not what's causing your problems, because in their opinion, it should be, you know. Essentially, I had an operation in June, just like a diagnostic laparoscopy where they cut you open and put little cameras in to see what's going on. They popped a coil in at that time, which then a few months later, after causing me nothing but problems and being ignored when I was saying it's the coil decided that it had enough of my womb and it busted out. Instead of falling out the way that nature had left open for it, it just decided to like cut through my uterus and just chill in my abdominal cavity. At which point I was internally bleeding and had to have a blood transfusion and all the rest of it, because, you know, Blood's
Body needs
supposed to be,
blood.
yeah, the body needs blood in its veins. It can't just be anywhere. That they've set out specific motorways for it, and if it if it comes off, it's not good. Um, Started to feel better, then stopped, and started to feel worse again, and was in a very dark place of, am I going crazy, or is something still really wrong? Turns out something was still really wrong. I had just a horrendous infection that kind of spread into my left fallopian tube, my uterus, all around that area, all of my internal parts that kind of live in that area. So ovary, uterus, bowel, fallopian tube, they're all just stuck together. They all just fused together. And yeah, and I had like an incredible infection. Went into septic shock at the hospital. That was fun. Had another operation, and we are now on the 19th of January as we are recording this. And I'm not going to say the words because even though I'm not superstitious, uh, I feel like evidence suggests. But currently, I'll put it this way: I haven't needed to take painkillers today. I haven't taken any antibiotics today. I no longer am stabbing myself in the thigh daily with blood thinners.
Thank you for qualifying.
Thank you. You're welcome. And I can now walk freely and for a distance if I wish to be amongst people, which I don't, without needing a respite or to be pushed around in a wheelchair. So currently, all of those things are true. And I also this week started back at working on Air to the Universe, and my brain worked as I remember it working before all of this began. So I'm just leaving those facts on the table. You can draw your own conclusions. I I think I won't be drawing any conclusions verbally for probably about a year. But needless to say, I'm currently not in hospital. I don't foresee myself needing to go to hospital. And I can move and think a lot better than I could the last time I was on this podcast. So there you go.
Kablam.
Kablam.
Turns out it's hard to have a straight mind to think when you're on copious amounts of painkillers for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
Who'd have thunk it?
For like months, from April to like currently, the minimum I was on was 8 cocodamols a day. That's the minimum. And that is codeine, which is a strong ass opiate. Also, I've had tramadol, morphine, hydrocodone, fentanyl. What's the K one that they gave me? Ketamine. I woke up and there was like, we're just gonna observe you because we like the painkillers we gave you before you went under was ketamine and fentanyl, and I was like, motherfucker.
Is that for the pain? No, we're doing a trial.
Yeah, we just thought you've been through enough, so. And just, I will say, while there have been many not great times and experiences, what I have seen is the people that are ride or die, the people that will help in whatever way that they can, whether that's big or small. And also there have been some absolutely fucking spectacular doctors and nurses. Like, so I consider myself extremely lucky. My son has been, for the most part, incredible. He's a teenager, and his mother has been like extraordinarily ill for what, like 8 months? And he's handled it, I think, a lot better than a lot of people would. And he's been very supportive and very sweet. Obviously, there's been times where he's just been a teenager, but I don't hold that against him because that's just where he's at. But for the most part, he's been incredible. So yeah, a big thank you to everyone that has been incredible. And a special thanks to the nurse that looked after me when I came out of surgery, who topped me up on Special K and fentanyl before I went back to the ward because they couldn't give me drugs that good. So she was like, "You what?" I was like, "Yes." So yeah, there we go.
Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. It's nice to be in the chair. This is the first time I've sat in this chair for a long time. I'm very aware that my language is bordering on the cautious, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And like, you have also had lots of, I mean, you've been by my side for all of that. You've had to deal with
you.
Yeah. Like, just gentle listener, it's not an easy job. I am not. I'm low maintenance in the sense of like, I'm not particularly fussy about a lot of things, but emotionally, oh, not so much.
Yeah.
Not so much.
Yeah. And it's we've spoken off air a lot about obviously like goals and new year and all that kind of stuff. And what was hilarious was not long before recording this episode, because this episode's all about our 2024 goals. Spoiler alert. I went back and listened to some of last year's ones, and last year was very much like us recording before Christmas, going, yeah, we're not going to make like predictions or plans because who knows what's going to happen next year. Like we won't do that. And I think this year's very much going to be the same. And I'll probably go into that a bit more when we get onto the topic. As I say, it's good to have you back in the chair. The last few months have been very, very difficult for both of us for various reasons. Obviously, lots of health stuff with Sam. I've still got personal stuff that I can't talk about that I'm still dealing with, but very much on a different level to what it was. So it's, you know, we kind of harp on about it each episode. It kind of goes to show, I hope, the ethos of Activated Authors and kind of what this is built on, in that, like, you know, one of the things I'm most proud of from last year, especially when I did a review with the members in our Discord community about, you know, the biggest wins that they've got. So many of them were like, I took time off, I recognized burnout, I did this. And, you know, we push for productivity and we push for, you know, writing and putting all that kind of stuff out. But like, if the last 6 months has like harshly taught me, it's that you get to points where that just cannot happen. No. And you can only focus on the immediate things before you. And so, you know, this has been a real trial by fire of learning those lessons. As I say, it's still, for me, it's very much ongoing, although things are improving. Like, I'm doing a lot more. So I'm seeing a new therapist. I've started seeing him beginning of December. And he's already annoying me with his buzzword, which is self-care. Like every week it's like, and why is that self-care? And what are you going to do this is self-care? It's like, why am I paying you to piss me off? But like, it's absolutely true. And I think it's difficult sometimes being able to recognize those times, particularly when the entire bubble of indie publishing of everything else is 6-figure authors and 5,000 words a day and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, they are a very loud minority of authors who are finding success doing what they do, nothing against them. But I think it's one of those things you've very much got to be careful of. And I hope that's kind of what I am bringing to Activated Authors, is that kind of alternate lens. Because I've been that guy. I've delivered those word counts. I've lived that life. And the reason I was able to live that life was a very privileged set of circumstances at the time, i.e. a pandemic shut the world down. So I had nothing else to do. So yeah, it's been a fun few months. I'm excited to be back. I definitely think the rest was needed. Just in general. And we've, you know, we're not upheaving, is that the word? Upheaving the entire podcast format, none of that, but we are making a few tweaks and bits just to kind of more behind the scenes. It's not going to affect you guys. We're going to be interviewing more people and kind of changing a little bit of the structure, but for the most part, me and Sam are rocking the microphone and bringing you the vibrant world of publishing.
Oh yeah. I just want to say very quickly, if that's something I'm capable of doing, and we're about to find out. I mean, from the preamble, I'm going with no.
It's not started.
That, yeah, I think it's like, it's so important, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, in the kind of like climate, the landscape, whatever words you want to use, that we are, at least in this country, and I would say America as well, we are very much a society of go, 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 like rest is for the weak, like grind, grind, grind. If you want it, then never stop while you're sleeping, people are beating you, all this kind of stuff. And actually that's a recipe for long-term like disaster. Short-term, if you can pull it off, sure, you will see success because you are working more than everyone else. You are doing all of the things. But the truth is, if you listen to any of those people, then like catch up with them in 5 years' time, they've all mellowed the fuck out, because no one can run a race like that the entire time. You cannot run a marathon as a 100-meter sprint. Like, you will die.
I watched a pretty well-revered productivity guy, you know the type, gorilla, who literally was preaching very, very strongly about the fact that he lives 3 days in one. And what he means is that he sleeps for 6 hours and then has 3 6-hour blocks, which he considers days, in which he does his day's work in. I'm like, that sounds horrible and dangerous. And you may be rich, but I don't want that life.
When are you having orgasms? That's my first question. I know it shouldn't be, but it is. Number one, where's the orgasms? Number two, where's your friends?
So moving on. So, I mean, just a few updates of things I kind of want to touch on before we get into the meat and potatoes of Activated Authors.
Go on.
Yeah, a couple of updates. I am excited to announce we've got a new kind of weekly fixture in Activated Authors, in that we are vamping up the blog.
Yeah,
and
we are.
So our very own Robin Howley, who we spoke about earlier, who has been on the podcast a couple of times, has very, very kindly offered to start creating some content, writing some things to go out there. So every Friday now is going to be a brand new blog post, either written by myself or by Rob. And we've got a schedule of the things that we want to put on there, things that are very sort of timely, hopefully, for a lot of what's going on in the world and the different things that happen during the year. But also, just to reach out, if anyone wants any specific content, feel free to get in touch, join us on the Discord, recommend things that you want to see, and we can try and make that as functional and useful for you guys as possible. So welcome, Rob, officially.
Yay.
There we go.
Sorry, welcome, Rob.
Welcome, Rob.
Welcome.
The team is growing. There's 6 of us now.
Yep.
Crazy. What else have we got? Oh, so just quickly before I move on from that, we already have 2 new blog posts. One of them went live today. Last week, I wrote my top 7 productivity tips, which, interesting, springing off our conversation we literally just had.
Yeah, number 5 will amaze you. Go on.
Number 5 will amaze you. And also, balancing self-care and creativity came out today. So all about looking after yourself and making sure that you can make this a sustainable career for yourself.
And a longer life.
And a longer, fingers crossed. The other thing,
not go down that road.
No. Another thing that we've added to the Discord is we've now got an accountability thread. So every week on Monday, people are posting the top 3 things, and I'm very specific about 3 things.
No more than 3, please.
No, because I'm tired of seeing lists. I want 3 priorities for the week of things you want to achieve, and then every Monday, people have been checking in, holding themselves accountable, putting in their goals for the next week. So feel free to jump over and get involved if you want to put your feet to the fire and have us kind of checking on you as well. And then just some things that I've been doing that I want to recommend, because I'm going to focus on me for a minute.
Oh, yeah.
So why not? So just an update on the things that I'm working on at the minute. I have taken a bit of a look at working on a subscription model for my fiction. The model name's not subscription.
No.
But I've recently stumbled across I forget the guy's second name. It's a guy called Michael over at reamstories.com. Ream is in ream of paper, not as in other things. And
fortunate name.
It is, but I am having a play with that subscription model in the way that I used to do a lot of Patreon stuff. I wrote When Winter Comes exclusively through Patreon to begin with, and uploaded raw chapters and built a kind of model of people following the story. And this seems to be a kind of next generation way of doing that. So it's much more reader friendly. You can put books up, they like appear as books, and you can read chapters, and they've got an e-reader, all that kind of stuff. So I'm currently experimenting with that. I've just finished a page. I'm going to be launching it to my list next week to see what the take up is. Might do an episode on that at some point, because I think there's a lot to go into there, and could even get potentially Michael on the show to talk about, you know, the origin of reaming and kind of how that's grown.
Yeah, I'd like to ask some questions.
Yeah. Well, it sprang from a romance author, so
okay. Well, in that case, genius.
I know it gives you some ideas.
Yeah.
So we're doing lots of that. I'm still chipping away at website design. So I designed another couple of websites over the last few months. I've got 2 new clients now, who I'm quite excited to be working with.
So proud of you.
Thank you. I'll be putting up those websites soon, hopefully. A recommendation from me of a book, which seems to have just natively sunk into the conversation that we're speaking about. Feel Good Productivity by Ali Abdaal, which I've read over Christmas, and it is glorious because it's essentially everything you probably already know about productivity plus joy.
Yeah.
So it's prioritizing the enjoyment side, and it kind of again plays into like what we do. Like a lot of, I think what people do with productivity, they build these systems, they build these machines that they then get exhausted pushing forward. And what this book outlines very, very clearly is sustainability comes from joy, comes from enjoyment, comes from the passion, comes from happiness first. So obviously you can't run an entire business on happiness alone. There are things you're not going to enjoy.
Oh God, yeah, no.
From a position of knowing your why and all that kind of stuff, it's just a very good read. And there's a lot of like principles and things in there which are some of them are quite new to me. A lot of them are very recognizable, but are written in a way that's very, very accessible. And the people that I've recommended it to so far have also loved it. So Feel Good Productivity by Ali Abdaal came out just before Christmas, or maybe just after Christmas. But anyway, it's out. Grab a copy. Now. Get it.
Now.
We'll wait.
Activated Authors is in no way sponsored by Feel Good Productivity.
No.
Dan just really liked it and he wants you to go get it now.
It's just really good. It's really good. And the final thing I want to touch on. Hey, guess what?
What?
It's been 18 months since you joined the podcast.
Has it? I mean, I've had lots of time off, so does it count?
Still isn't untrue.
Why?
I'd say 18 months since you consistently sat down every week and recorded the podcast.
Hey, I've been consistently sitting down for a lot longer than 18 months.
It's been a year and a half, though.
That's insane.
That's crazy. I do feel I'm very much in a time warp, like a very Marvel blip era of my life in which the last 2 years just haven't existed.
Yeah, and yet nothing's existed outside of them ever.
No, they have become one and all-consuming.
Aww. Well, that's very nice, and I have very much enjoyed being here for that time, and I'm very excited. In fact, I've even got in my little planner here. What am I excited about today? Because it asks me that every day, and I said starting up the podcast again.
Hey.
I was excited about today.
Perfection. Yeah. And carrying on that train of thought, what is something that you've enjoyed this week?
Reacher.
Oh, that was quick.
Yeah, I literally just finished it. So I'm not the biggest fan. I think I've probably spoken about Reacher before because I'm obsessed. I'm not the biggest fan of the films. I think they're not in any way really representative of who Reacher is. They're kind of like, well, they're just films that you can watch Tom Cruise doing stuff. Which is it's his thing, and he does stuff very well. It's just Reacher's supposed to be like 6'5" and like across and up, and you know, obviously
Cruise
that's not. No. So I really enjoyed the first season of it, and then I got very excited because the second season started 5 weeks ago, I think. They're like mini-series, 8 episodes piece, and it was the final or the finale of the season today. And I really enjoy it. Like, I've noticed that, and this is something that I hadn't really like connected the dots before. I'd been like very unwell for a sustained amount of time. You know, like I've dealt with chronic pain and chronic mental health problems my entire life, but this was something that I couldn't push through physically, and I had to stop, and I'm not good at that. And so what I've noticed in that time is I've been like rewatching a lot of comfort things, you know, falling asleep to a lot of things that bring me comfort. And I've noticed that without a lot of exceptions, most of the things that bring me comfort is just people killing other people. Not in a horror way, in like it's a dystopian thing, or it's a thriller, or like just that kind of stuff.
Justice.
Justice, yeah, like violent, bloody justice, vigilante, revenge, I guess you could say in some cases. And yeah, I really enjoy it. I think it's a good representation of who Reacher is in the books. I think obviously, things change and all the rest of it, but I very much enjoyed it. It's nice to see just someone absolutely decimating people that deserve it.
And that's the vibe of the books. It's very much just like he appears, there's a problem, he takes
He
care of the
fixes it.
problem, he
He
buggers off.
leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he doesn't appear because there's a problem.
No,
He just appears because
that's
that's what he does.
he finds problems
He's a
by
wanderer.
accident. Yeah.
Yeah. And like he can't he doesn't really blend in, like he's fucking huge.
It's like a
Yeah.
bear at the rabbit's tea party.
Yeah. And I do think
Hey guys.
it's
Carrots.
like all the way throughout season 2. It's just constant jokes about the fact that he can't run for shit because he's so massive. Like Neely's like, can you cover me? She's like, I can't cover your slow ass all the way to like there. Are you kidding me? Because like he's built so he can't run very fast because he can't really move his arms. He's like Gimli. He's built for short distances. Very dangerous.
Yeah, very dangerous over short distances. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Alan Richardson, who they've cast, is very good.
Spot on, fantastic.
Yeah, really good.
And this is coming. I've read a couple of the Reacher books. I haven't seen the Tom Cruise films. I've seen like the trailers, which obviously isn't representative of the film, but at the same time, even then, like from the book to even just how Tom Cruise looks, like it just there's a mismatch.
Yeah,
like,
big time.
I'm not saying they're bad films, as I have not seen them, but
no, they're good films as long as you don't take into consideration that he's supposed to be Jack Reacher. That's the problem.
Yeah. And I've only seen season 1, but it is fantastic. Well worth a watch.
Yeah. Well, you can talk about season 2 next week.
Okay, done. My things.
How about you?
Yeah, I jumped on the hype train and watched Saltburn, which is it's a fantastic. It's one of those films that like you really enjoy watching. It's a fantastic film. You can recognize it as a really like well shot, beautifully aesthetic film. It is fucked up, and it is something that I would not recommend for the less. What's the word?
For people with a weaker constitution?
That's what I was looking for weaker constitution.
Yeah.
It's, it tells the story of a Oxford student who is very much a geek and lower down on the social rungs of the ladder, who gets taken in by the elite, very, very privileged Felix and taken back to his estate where all his family live. And that's as much as I can like say without giving stuff away. It's very twisted. It's very intriguing.
It's got Rosamund Pike in, right?
Maybe.
She's one of my like favorite actresses. She's in The Wheel of Time, very tall, very slight. She's also in.
Yes, she's fantastic in it.
Yeah, she's she's just incredible. Like as an actress, she's phenomenal.
No, she nails her role, and it's got I think his name Brian Keegan or something, who I didn't realize is the guy that played Joker in the Robert Pattinson Batman.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Me neither, but I saw the scene afterwards because I was like, that's a good Joker. Very, very good actor. But yeah, it's a great film. As I say, like I wouldn't go into it lightly. It's very trippy, it's very heady. I would argue it's not exactly horror, but it definitely like has a lot of atmospheric horror to it.
Yeah, very psychologically.
Yeah. And one of the most unforgettable end scenes I've ever seen in my life, which is not a good thing for me, but like it's one of those like the film kind of finishes and then it has this extra bit at the end and I'm like, didn't need that. Like it's again like beautiful, it's artistic, it's like I didn't need it. And people who've seen it will know why. I'll tell you.
Is it one of those things like, you go to see Woman in Black at the West End and then when you come out you realize that there's essentially a disclaimer before you go in that's like, if you see her, she will haunt you for the rest of your life. Or like at the end of Blink in Doctor Who, the first time the Weeping Angels appear, and then like the final scene is them just focusing on all the fucking statues around London, and you're like, I didn't need that, you
Didn't need
absolute
that.
arseholes.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
kind of
level.
not in a horror way. I'll explain to you off air, but yeah, like and the other thing I will throw on there as well, just because I'll forget otherwise, is Sam got me a banjo for Christmas.
Yeah,
I've been playing banjo. It's been on my list for about 5 years because I love the freaking sound of it.
yeah.
And so I've been chipping away and learning bits and pieces on there. Wonderful.
It makes me happy.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Over into our kind of not regularly running segment, because trying to start a new segment
running. So.
Well, yeah, trying to start a new segment amidst the chaos of the end of last year was not successful. Welcome to Word of the Week.
Word of the Week. Bow, 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 bow. Yes, you need to do a little jingle on the banjo.
We'll see.
This is how I play banjo. If you're listening, then you can't see that essentially what it looks like I'm doing is fondling something or other. But this is if you're watching,
two very well-aligned gargoyles.
Yeah, that's how I assume one plays the banjo.
Yeah, absolutely. What is Word of the Week, Sam?
I don't know.
No, what is it?
I was like, it's your turn. I don't know. Okay, right, got you. Sorry. It's been a while. Word of the Week is essentially a way for us to, as a group, as a family, as a collective, come together and learn a word that is either like kind of fallen out of favor, arcane, or just really weird, that you might not necessarily have heard before. We build up our vocabulary together and we test ourselves. We have to, each week, whatever the word is, try to organically get it into a sentence without people sniffing you out. And
that's the key part.
That is the key part. And me and Dan do this, and we would love to hear about your stories, successes and failures, because both are equally valid. Failure is just a data point, also can be hilarious. So that's what Word of the Week is. What is the word of this week, please, Dan?
The word of this week is, and I thought I'd keep this kind of in theme with the publishing and all that kind of stuff, biblioclept.
Bibliotech?
Clept.
Oh, biblioclept. Is that someone that steals books?
This is someone who steals books.
I figured that out.
Are you a kleptomaniac for books? Are you a biblioclept? So we are going to try and sneak that into conversation organically with someone who is not associated with the podcast or any immediate people that we can kind of get the easy win from.
Yeah.
And as you say, the task is to try and get it without them asking what the hell a biblioclept is. So hopefully, I mean, this one's got potential for people to figure it out.
Yeah, I figured it out.
But we'll see. So have a go at that. Let us know how you get on this week. You can do so by emailing us at activatedauthors@gmail.com. You can do it by following us on YouTube or on Instagram, or jumping into our free Discord and getting involved in the conversation there. So,
yes, please.
Biblioclept.
Wonderful. Now, are we doing Win of the Week this week?
Yeah, I have one.
Awesome. Who is it?
So this is from one of our new members, Chris, who is one of our queer epic romantasy authors, which I've never heard of romantasy before, but it makes sense.
Romantasy. That's funny. You said that word and I heard romance fantasy. I didn't hear it as one word. My brain separated it.
Yeah. So Chris says, I had a beta reach at the end while reading my first draft today. That marks the first time anyone has finished a book I've written since I handed a NaNoWriMo draft to my friends when I was 14 and they liked it.
Aww. I fucking love that.
That's a milestone, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I love that, Chris. Well done.
That
makes
proud.
me happy.
Very, very proud. Yes.
Yeah.
And great to have you in the community, Chris. Really good to see you getting involved in the chats.
I've yet to get back into the chats, but I'm not going to lie, Discord is intimidating the shit out of me currently because I'm aware of how long I've been away. And so I think what I'm going to do is just jump in and just be like, yeah, I've read all of it, and just start from a fresh slate.
Yeah, why not?
Because I don't think I could catch up if I tried. I was going to say if I wanted to. I don't want to. It's too much.
Yeah. Well, jump on back in and you'll get to say hi to Chris.
I'll start on Monday.
And that's
what we do, right?
Before we jump into the meat of the conversation, I'm aware that we've been speaking for a while. Obviously, Not every episode is like this art of
No,
life.
it's been
Not
a
every
while.
episode.
What's
Yeah.
she feeling?
Yeah, just finding it. Just settling our toes in the sand, waiting for the waves to come back.
Nice.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
excellent. Well done.
But yeah, if this is the first time listening to the show, expect a lot of this. But also, generally, we do get into the meat of the question
A little bit
a
sooner, usually.
little bit sooner.
Yeah.
So this week, it's not really even a question. This week's topic is our 2024 goals and plans. So I know that you've been doing a lot of work on your goals and bits and pieces. And last year I went first. So would you like to take the lead this year?
Sure. Thank you. First of all, before I go into the things that I've written down, I think, as you were saying, what's really important to remember, and it's so easy to forget, is that goals, plans, all the rest of it are a wonderful tool to help you kind of direct your life and your purpose in the way that you wish it to go. Obviously, there is no real control, in the sense of we can control our decisions to situations and all the rest of it. But if last year has taught us anything, and by us, I mean me and Dan, it's that control for the most part is an illusion. And if you are too invested in your goals or plans or journeys, anything like that, it can have a really detrimental effect on your mental health when life takes a shit on you. So I have things that I would like to achieve. I have a direction that I would like to be going in, but I'm also trying to be very open-minded that the most important thing a human can be good at is change, is being able to be flexible and understand that when these kind of life-altering situations happen, for good or bad, that things are going to switch up real fast, and it's okay to not stay on top of everything. So with that being said, currently at the moment, my biggest goals, plans for this year are to pass my driving test, which is not necessarily a writing thing, but I am 37, 38 in a few months. And I have never really been in the position financially to take driving lessons, to afford a car, all the rest of it. And to be honest, I'm still kind of not. But I'm going to figure out a way, because I hate the limiting thing of not being able to drive. So for example, when it's super cold, which it has been, I hate the fact that my son has to get the bus and wait in -4 for a bus to come and then walk a good 10 minutes or whatever. I don't like it, especially considering his feelings and things around school, so that's something that I have got my eye on this year, and I've done some research and things into it. I'm also putting a strong emphasis on understanding business mechanics, most importantly financially, because I intend to this year put a lot of money into my business. Not my money. I intend to put other people's money into my business. And so the way I've kind of got that down is to make £5,000 profit this year, which is a tiny amount, I know, to most people. But I am looking at starting small with everything. At the minute, I'm just recovering from all of the surgeries and all of those things. I'm making sure that I hit 5,000 steps a day, not 10,000, 5,000. I'm making sure that I'm having 2 liters of water a day, that I am taking my dog out once a day, really, really small, achievable things that are still a huge distance away from where I was 2 months ago. So it's this, I'm taking that approach with kind of everything this year, because there's a saying, isn't there? You overestimate what you can do in a year, underestimate what you can do in 10. So
Yes.
instead of just being I'm going to publish 12 books, I'm I'm going to get to 10,000 steps by the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, my main 3 kind of business goals, and then I won't like go into them too much. I'll throw back to you and we can.
Sure.
Is by the end of this year, I would like to have published, or if I decide not to self-publish, to have like sent out Air to the Universe. I'd like to have 3 audiobooks released, which I think is more than doable, considering I have 2 currently in the works, and a 3rd client. So I think I could do that. £5,000 profit, and then I have another book that I would like to have written by the end, not released, not all the other things written. So they're like business-wise, the things that I'm looking at. How about you?
I love those.
Thanks.
They're very, very good. Yeah, like I listened to, as I say, the majority of our last year episode, because you get to the end of the year, you forget every year. Like,
oh god, yeah.
Similarly to how you say,
end of the year, the end of the day, mate.
I know. Similarly to how you say, like, you know, goals help point us, but they should be somewhat flexible. Like one of the things I took years ago from, I shout him out every year, Luke Condor, is the idea of having like a goal for the end of the year, but a review every 3 months, because things, as we know, especially in today's world of digital stuff, everything moving so quickly, like the goalposts do move all the time, and so you have to be able to adjust and to move. Like, and you know, even just my own focuses and interests change every 3 days, so I've gone into updating my goals every 3 hours, just to keep on track. But last year the focus was all about well, because I've got it written down, so I had like personal and I had professional goals. The personal ones, the word of the year was habit, which fell apart because life did not allow. And then it was a lot of like health stuff, which I kind of am doing somewhat. And then professional was marketing, and it was looking at like a lot of building the foundations for. Can you hear my squeaky chair?
I can hear.
I didn't know if Zoom was gonna like.
I heard it.
One goal, get a new chair, because this was doing this years ago in LA. But yeah, to market and put out like some evergreen stuff, and to build on the foundations of what we've done with Activated Authors, because obviously like many iterations of Great Writer Share was the podcast, and then we had the Willcocks writing camp and all that kind of stuff. So all consolidated into what has become Activated Authors. And yeah, like I definitely hit some of those. Like some of them were to put in some more free sources for Activated Authors, so I did that with the activation
free sources.
Free sources, yeah.
I love it.
I know you did last year as well.
Oh my god,
that was your exact same reaction.
Oh my god, I was on so many drugs.
Not in December 2022.
No, but since clearly it's had a retrograde effect.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I had an email from someone earlier who I literally was like, I don't know who you are, but it was a full conversation, and I freaked out. I've worked out who they are now.
Yeah.
But I had like a good 10-15 minutes where I was like, I've replied to this person like in full, in a very conversational way. Who are you? I won't say the name, obviously. But yeah, and just before I kind of jump into, because I've basically put down 3 primary goals for this year, in as far as I've kind of allowed myself to foresee things. Despite how just turbulent in many ways last year was, I did also make a point of listing things that were good amongst all that crap. So like it was, particularly towards the end of the year, it was very easy to focus on a lot of the negatives and to be lost in all the things that were happening. And so I wrote a list, just a few things to remind myself and just to kind of like share, because you know you were in a fair few of these as well. Went to the London Book Fair in, was it April last year?
Yeah,
around then. It was so April last year we went to the London Book Fair. We spoke to Michael Andley, had a chat with him and his wife. We met some of the Activated Authors. We saw Ara and Eden, and we saw Rob, and we saw Holly Line from the Unstoppable Authors podcast.
And Stubble. Shane,
yeah. Shane. Yeah.
Sorry, drugs. I apologise.
So Shane, we saw Barry Hutchinson, JD Kirk, loads of like just really, really cool people out there. And it was nice sort of chatting to everyone. So London Book Fair, I went to StokerCon in June.
You did.
Which was probably one of the most transformative events of last year professionally. And met a lot of cool people, and a lot of stuff has come from that. So I highly recommend, if you get the chance, to go to one of these kind of conferences for whatever your genre is, definitely check it out. It's well worth it. I wrote and released Dream, which is my H.P. Lovecraft Alice in Wonderland remix that was released on the Other Stories podcast over Halloween, that was listened to by a lot of people. We ran another 50k writing camp. I say we, Emmy did a lot of it, so big thank you, Emmy and Edie.
Because I went into surgery halfway through.
Yeah, thanks for that. That was helpful.
Sorry.
And we hit 70% completion of people that hit the 50k over the 15% that they do every year. So it's a formula that works.
It really is.
Yeah. And also just went to so many gigs. Went to some like real bucket list gig people, like saw Paramore, saw Gavin DeGraw, saw Frank Turner, saw Watsky.
Gavin DeGraw was so good.
That was incredible.
I get it, man.
Yeah.
I get it.
Go see Gavin DeGraw.
Like,
I'm whispering.
I don't know. Like in a standalone picture, he's an okay looking guy, but like I get it when he starts to sing, and I'm like, I get it.
He has soul.
Yeah.
And he is, just phenomenal. So despite all that, like, I just wanted to recap, mostly for myself in a very selfish way. Some good things happened.
At all. I think it's a good thing to highlight.
Oh, and the other thing that I've just missed, even though it's written on my list, is my novella, The Nowhere Line, I pitched to a publisher, got rejected, but it was a very nice rejection.
Yeah.
And is now in a position in which I'm kind of playing around a bit more with pitching to more traditional publishing houses, because I want to experiment. And I think I do think this book would have a better life.
Yeah, I agree.
Under that banner.
I agree, because of the kind of the style of the writing and things. I agree with you.
Yes. So all of that stuff to say, I have boiled my goals down to 3 sort of big goals, which link to other things, but just for the simplicity of this, number 1, I want to release the first 3 books in my new horror series. One is basically written, one is half done. I've got an idea for the next one, and with that, it kind of links into some of the stuff that I'm playing around with subscriptions. I'm trying to find a way to streamline the process in a way that I can capitalize on each stage without too much of the extra effort. So I'm really playing into the super fans and bringing readers along with me on the journey and all that kind of stuff. So releasing the first 3 books in that. I would like to have at least 1 web design client every month. I mean, February I potentially got 2, so that's not a bad start. And the big one for me this year, that I mean, it does play into other things that I want, but it feels very selfish, because it's more just I want to do it because I want to have done it. Is I want to run a live author event. Yeah. So kind of an exclusive. I don't think I've actually announced this on the podcast, but I am very much looking into a way to create an Activated Authors live event. Don't know what that looks like yet. Don't know where it's going to be. It will be in the UK. So UK listeners, keep an eye out for that. People who are non-UK, get your ass over here. But yeah, like it's something I've been wanting to do for a while. I think because I've been to quite a few of these different events, and I used to run events and do things in my old job and stuff. Like I know the value of it, and I think one of the strengths in Activated Authors comes when people are jumping on the Zoom and they interact digitally. So we get a lot of people becoming friends and just that familiarity and growth with other authors via Zoom. I just want to take that to the next level and just see people in the flesh, share more about the Activated Authors message, because I do still think that what we do here is very, very different to what a lot of conferences tend to run. I agree. The focus tends to be a lot more around like just these very specifics of writing and publishing, and while that will be
stacks on stacks on stacks on stacks.
Exactly. And while that will be a part of it, I definitely want to fix more into the becoming Activated Author and the onus being on how you can create that sustainable rhythm.
Yes, because you and the author are not like,
no,
you are the same thing.
Yes. So those are my 3 main ones. I mean, kind of overarching all of that is I hope to be able to move house again this year. And so that kind of feeds into bits and pieces. And it would be nice at the end of this year to be in a position in which I can start looking at, for want of a better word, because I hate this word anyway, but like settling. Because for people that followed my journey over the last few years, I've moved around a lot for various reasons. It plays into a lot of the personal stuff. Yeah. And I'm hoping that by the end of this year, I can be in a position in which that's put to bed.
Yeah. I like to look at it as having a home base
Yeah.
as opposed to being settled, because
Yes. I want a camper van. I want to travel.
Mhm. I know. I was saying, like, when Reacher finished, I was saying to my sister, like, when the kids are grown, that's how
Bye.
I would like to be. Yeah, maybe
Uh-huh.
not on a bus because gross. Like, again, I don't drive, so I've spent a lot of time on buses, and I'm good. But certainly, yeah,
Yeah.
just wandering. But having a home base is so important, I think.
Yeah. One in which you are free to do as you will and not under the watchful, judgmental eyes of parents
Or landlords.
or landlords. Yeah. Yeah.
Gross.
So
Yeah.
yeah, those are mine. So you did your business ones. That means you got your personal ones as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I have them written here in a way that I can measure, because, that's important. So 3 audiobooks is easily measured, 5K is easily measured. I've either published the book or I haven't. But the main kind of like emphasis in my head, when I was thinking about this, when I realized that there was a potential of a recovery coming up, was that I didn't want to be in the same position I was in last year, next year.
Mm.
So I was fortunate enough to be in a hospital bed on New Year's Eve, and completely by myself, listening to the fireworks go off, and a few old people on the ward getting really angry that the nurses had set up fireworks, even though, of course, the nurses hadn't. These were just fireworks that people were setting up because it was New Year's. That poor nurse in the morning, she got attacked. And I was like, never again. Obviously, I can't predict my health, and that's certainly not what I'm saying never again to. But anything that I can control around my own personal health and security is something I really want to start looking at, because for 37 years now, I have essentially, for the most part, been in survival mode. And what that means is it's very difficult for me to live a life, because I find most of it incredibly fucking boring. My therapist laughed her head off and said, I really appreciate your honesty. Because she was like, how about meal prepping? I was like, I've done it before. It bores my tits off. And she was like, yep, I get it. But the main things for me personally is I don't want to be in the same financial position that I am currently in this time next year. And what that looks like is essentially me just understanding that my emotions rule so much of my life, most of it. And I have worked in areas to be able to step away from that emotion, specifically when I'm having conversations with people. So, for example, me and Dan could be talking about something, completely normal conversation, and something could be said, and it triggers something in my head. And I immediately feel this wave of, I don't know, like anger or sadness, like an extreme kind of thing. And in those moments, I know that it's not about what has just been said. It's about that something around that topic has rubbed up against like a trigger. And so I worked really hard over the past like 5 years or so to be able to step back for a second and like question my brain. And it's quite funny from the outside, because I essentially, it's like I'm buffering, because like I literally just go into my head. Um, but I have that skill so that I don't like destroy my relationships with friends, family, partners, whatever. Like, so I can do that for the most part with relationships. I need to start applying that to financial decisions, because
Mm.
I definitely am an impulse person. I will see something and know that I've needed it my entire life and will buy it. Instead of going, okay, like maybe just take a step back, and so I think that's a big part of it, is that just applying tools that I already have that I use for other people to make sure that I maintain my loving, healthy relationships. I need to start treating money in the same way.
Yeah.
So that's a big one for me, is that I don't think by this time next year I'll be fully out of debt, but I think I could make a huge old like chunk taken out of it, if that made any
Mm.
sense. And just, be in a position where I can actually start to think about things like a mortgage, because at the minute it's laughable that anyone would come anywhere near me with anything like that. But I can start putting in the groundwork now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a big one for me. Also, I'm very interested in getting my body into a position where it reflects the love I have for it, which I mean, it currently does, and that's the problem. I need to
Yeah.
work on the love I have for
Yeah.
it. Like I've been ill for a good 8 months and I haven't been able to move or really cook or do anything like that. So I've put on like a considerable amount of weight because of my circumstance. Now, because it's been so long, it's easy for me to stay in that mode. It's easy for me to just be like, no, I'll just grab a bag of crisps instead of like making myself some food, or I'll do this, or I'll do this. And it's not for me about kind of like getting the weight off. It's about getting into a position with myself where I can just honor where I'm at that day and
Mm.
just like say thank you, because until you cannot walk, you really don't appreciate your legs. And until like one of my arms got fucked up because of the amount of like IVs I've had, this year, and I could barely move it and it was swollen and rock hard. And until you can't, move your arms, it's really difficult to appreciate them. And so, yeah, I'm looking at kind of re-educating myself again around food, around my body. And I've got two very small goals around that as a way of kind of measuring it, because it's a difficult thing to measure your relationship with money, with food, with whatever. So for me, with my body, by the end of the year, I would like to be able to do one solitary pull-up, because
Mm.
I've never been able to do one before. It's been on my list for a while. So I would like to be able to do a unassisted solitary pull-up. And also I'd like to be able to do the splits, because I think strength and flexibility are very important things to do.
Yes.
So they're my tiny little, I mean, splits maybe not, but like small, I'm not saying like I can run the London Marathon or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm out of practice talking. I can feel the ramble. I can feel
No
it.
rambling.
Am I not? I feel very rambly.
No, you're explaining your goals.
Very,
It's the
very
point of the
rambly.
episode.
Okay. Okay. Um,
Nice.
but yeah, they're kind of the big ones.
Mm.
What about you? I
I
mean, you
mean,
kind of said personal, but like if you wanted to go into any.
yeah, no, I mean, like my, I'm not really seeing them as long-term goals. I'm kind of, so obviously the three that I've listed, there are a whole load of other ones that kind of surround that for various reasons,
Mhm.
just more ways of tracking and monitoring. But I think for me, I'm just trying to abide by one of the phrases, and one of the things that I came across years ago that kind of come back to me is this whole thing that like indecision is a choice, or like either way you choose to or choose not to, suffering is part of the journey. So for an example, because that sounds really pessimistic, it's not. If I want to get up in the morning and go for a run, I
Mhm.
have two choices. I either do it or I don't, and it's very binary. On the one side, I can stay in bed and relax and not worry about it. In the long term, if I do that every morning, and not necessarily running, but like don't exercise, I'm going to suffer because I'm going to put on weight. I'm not going to be as strong. It's going to affect my body.
Mhm.
Or I can get up, I can do the run, which I'm going to suffer in the immediacy because running is not easy,
Mhm.
and you have the aches as well. So I'm trying to accept that kind of general idea of suffering, and again, like redefine it,
Yeah.
and just build that into my system. So I have been doing that with my eating over the last few weeks. So I've been doing that with sort of exercise and stuff over the last few weeks. I need to reweigh myself because there's things around it, but last I checked, I'd lost 11 pounds in the
Mhm.
last 4 weeks, which is obviously considerable. And so most of what I'm looking at is just finding the small things that I can get
Mhm.
to regularly that contribute to a larger whole.
The slight
Um,
edge.
yeah, so with my newsletters, I was doing my fiction one fortnightly. I'm now at the point where I'm peeling that back. I'm going to do that monthly because it's
Mhm.
just more sustainable and I can be more considerate of what I'm doing with the newsletters. Doesn't mean I'm not going to like put out more regular ones if releases and stuff come, but ultimately once a month is a lot easier to plan for. Um, and also just recognizing the more quote boring parts of my business are worth doing.
Yeah.
He says, rolling his eyes for people on the podcast. And committing to doing them, because the choice that I have is either I do them for myself or I do them for someone else, and it's much more valuable doing them for myself. So yeah, that's kind of my whole. But yeah, I've deliberately tried to keep it quite thin and streamlined. I think if we, because we've spoken about potentially doing like a quarterly accountability thing, which we'll likely look at the end of March, that things might change. I might tweak some things based off, what's happened the last few months. But for now, that's what I've got.
Yeah. Nice. Is there something that you, if we are doing like a quarterly kind of thing, because obviously the goals that I've spoken about and you, they're like for this year, I would like this to kind of be the thing.
Yeah.
Is there anything specifically that you have at the minute that you want to throw out for quarterly, or do you want to have a think about it and kind of talk about that next week?
Have a think about it and talk about it next week, I think.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll make
Sounds
a note.
good.
Oh, work. I'm going to type loudly because I'm annoyed.
Yeah, I can tell. So annoyed. While we're here talking about work, do you think we should touch on the anthology?
Yes, absolutely. Over to you.
Incredible. Dickhead. So obviously, like, the anthology has taken a lot shitting longer than we had planned or expected it to. This is not a reflection of our commitment or our gratitude for the stories and all the rest of it. It is simply, I have had 3 abdominal surgeries in like less than a year, and that I don't recommend that for anyone. It's rough. I've been incredibly ill, and Dan has had a shit ton of ridiculous personal business that he's had to deal with. I can't say any more either, even though I would fucking like to. So priorities obviously had to be me not dying, and Dan dealing with all of the fucking bullshit. So I would just like to say a sincere, we're very sorry that it's taken this long, but we are now fully back on board. We have basically read everything now. I think there's maybe like 1 prompt, 2 prompts left, like a few stories, but like by the end of today, they should be done, which means we can move on to the next stage. And even though final selection, yeah, we won't be running flash fiction this February because we both feel like it's disingenuous to kind of start again before we have finished the one that should have been finished months ago. But yeah, we're back on it. And what were you saying you want? So by the end of February, we kind of want to be in a position, like, if possible, obviously.
Yeah, well, as you say, we're in the final throes of pulling out the ones that potentially could make the cut. We're going to go through, reread those to select it and start, because when you put an anthology together, it's not always as simple as just list of stories. There has to be it's better if there's a rhythm, if there's a flow, if there's a structure, just so it kind of makes sense to the reader. And so we've got to go through that and look at those individually, see how they work together, how best to lay them out. So I mean, yeah, the hope is, I think by the end of February we've got the finalists and we've got them contacted, so we can look into the publishing stage. Because the publishing stage, it's easy, really, like that side of things. It's just the structure and the organization of it. But there have been so many amazing stories in there we've come across, and like the fact that it was so well attended and so many people submitted, like it means a lot. And it is one of those things that, like, as Sam says, like, we'd love to look at it again in the future of running it, because it seems to help a lot of people. Just given everything the last few months and all that kind of stuff, it does feel it wouldn't be fair to them be like, we're going to do an anthology and start advertising an anthology when this one's still rolling. So yeah, thank you for everyone who has submitted. It is still on its way. I will be emailing people. I've got a newsletter going out next week for activated authors, and an update will be in that as well. So yeah, flash fiction February. Bolts of Fiction. That was the anthology name, Bolts of Fiction.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yes. Is there anything else?
We've been out of the loop.
Yeah, is there anything else in this massive episode?
I don't think so. I think we've covered everything.
Yeah. Okay.
Just
Well,
remind us what the word of the week again is.
biblioclept.
Biblioclept.
So yeah, message us. Absolutely join us over on our free Discord server. Discord can seem intimidating to people. It's essentially just a chat room forum. It can be as difficult or as easy as you set it up to be, because you're in control of notifications and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, me and Sam are over there every week. Rob's over there every week. Emmy's over there every week. Eden's over there every week. The entire
We're all over there every week.
Yeah. So jump on in. It's where all the fun stuff, all the action is happening. As I say, it's free to join. There is a paid option you can join if you want to join us live on Sprint and all that kind of stuff, but you don't have to. You can just join us over there, have a chat, introduce yourself, meet some authors, and hold yourself accountable for 2024.
Yep.
And yeah, I guess with that, there's nothing else to say, but a massive thank you to you, the listeners, for tuning in. We appreciate you and the time you choose to spend with us each and every week. And as always, if you're looking to level up your writing and activate your author career, head on over to
activatedauthors.com/Discord. Is it Discord?
/join.
Join. Sorry.
To find out all about our community, our resources, and everything else we've got going on. One more time, from myself and from Sam, we will see you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Activate your energy.